Hey everyone, welcome to my new video. And in this video, I'm going to discuss about functions. We have already discussed a lot about functions. We have learned a lot of functions, but now I'm going to discuss that what is functions, types of functions, and how can we make a new function. So let's start this video. So functions are not any complex thing, but it generally can be a single word or can be multiple words or it can be a set of line of code which are generally designed to perform any particular task or to do any specific work. Now I'm going to tell you about the types of function. So generally there can be three types of function. First is user defined function and the second is predefined functions and it is also known as inbuilt functions. And the third one is library functions. So let us first discuss about inbuilt functions because we already know that what are inbuilt functions. So the functions which are already defined in the Python, like we have already given many type of functions which we can just use for any type of work. Like I'm going to give you some examples. So I can take the example like print. So print is a predefined function. We didn't met this, but it is already exist in the Python. We just only use this by using the name of the function. So everyone know that print is the function which is used to print anything in our output. And now we can also take some example like len. Len is used to find the length of any list, dictionary, tuple, or any string also. And next one is sum. Sum function is used to add any two numbers or three numbers. So this is sum function. And similarly, now the next function is split. I have discussed this also. So a split function generally divides any string by using a separator which we give inside the parenthesis of a split function. And we can also take the example of upper function. So I have also discussed this in the previous video that this function generally turns all the letters of any string into the upper cases. So similarly, there are many type of functions, and I can also say that till now in our all the previous video, whatever we are discussing about the functions, we are using the functions, all were the inbuilt functions because they have already met. So we are only using those functions to just perform our task and to do whatever we want. Now library file functions. So generally Python have some libraries in it, and these libraries have some their personal functions to perform the specific tasks. So I will make a separate video on the libraries of Python and their functions. So wait for the another video. Now I'm going to discuss about the user defined functions. And this is the main topic which I'm going to elaborate in this video. So user defined functions are the functions which are not already made in the Python language. These are the functions which we make according to our convenience, like what we want to do. We can just make a function and provide more simplicity to our programs and to the users. So user defined functions help us to make our code effective, save our time, and make our code less spacious. That is, I'm giving you an example. So let's suppose I am making a code, a very large code, and in that code or in that program, I have to add numbers multiple times. So let us suppose that I have to add numbers, different numbers, not same numbers. So I have to add different numbers at different positions multiple times. Let us take 10 times. So how can we add two numbers? We write a is equals to int input enter number, b is equals to int input enter number, and then sum is equals to a plus b, and then print sum. So we write these four lines to find the sum of any number or generally two number. I have taken the example of two numbers. So if you have to find the sum of two numbers, you generally write these four lines, and these are the simplest lines that we use to add any two numbers. So if I want to add numbers 10 times, and not only two numbers, we have to add three number, four number, and multiple numbers together. So if I am going to write these four lines or more than four lines to add numbers 10 times, then it would take more time. It would make my program very large. It will take extra space. Like, I am unnecessarily making my program very large, and so it will look ineffective because anyone will see, and he or she will judge my code that this code is written by any beginner or anyone who don't know about functions. So for reducing these problems, we generally make functions, and these are the functions which known as user defined functions. So we use def keyword for making functions. So by using def keyword, now we are going to take multiple examples to see that how we make functions that are user defined functions. This is my first example, which is related to the previous example which I have taken a few minutes ago. So I am going to make a function on sum, on finding the sum of two numbers. Similarly, you can make function on multiple numbers. So so simply you have to write def and sum. So you have to write def to define the function, and sum here is the name of function. Similarly, you can give the function name add, total, summation, addition, anything. So you have to write def and then function name and then parenthesis. Parentheses are the symbols which generally indicate that this is a function. So this is how you have to write the first line, that is def and then function name. So here I have taken sum as my function name, and then inside this you have to write the code which you want to perform. So simply I have written the four lines which I have discussed, but here I have reduced that four lines into three. I think you all can understand because I have discussed this in my previous videos. So A is equals to int input, enter first number, B is equals to int input, enter second number, and then in the third line, that is in the fourth line, print A plus B. So simply I have taken two variables A and B to take two numbers from the user, and then I have added both the numbers, and I have used the print function to print the sum of the numbers. So this is how I have met the function. So in the first line, I have defined the function using the def keyword. So the first line was function definition. And now if we want to use the function, then we have to call the function. Like if you want to talk anyone, then you have to call them. So similarly, if you want to use any user defined function, then you have to call that function by the function name. So here our function name is sum. That's why I have written in the sixth line sum parenthesis. And by this way, we call any function. So this is our function calling. And in the first line, it was the function definition. Now I am running this code. So here you can see enter first number is appearing, and now I have to enter a number. So I have entered 23 here. Then I will press enter key, and then you can see enter second number. So I have entered 23 again, and now when I press enter key, it will give me the sum of these two numbers. So our output should be 46. So here is our output. You can also write this function by some different ways. Like I'm discussing here the next way to write these functions. So this is, I think, more simpler than the previous one because here we take arguments. So we don't have to write the two lines which we were writing in the previous method. That is A is equals to int input and B is equals to int input. So we don't have to write in this method. So simply I have written def to define my function, and then I have written the function name. So here my function name is sum, and then inside the parenthesis I have given arguments. So whatever you will write inside the parenthesis of the function you have made, it is known as argument. You can give one argument, two argument, or any number of argument according to your need. Here I have made the program for adding two numbers. That's why I have taken two argument. If you want to add three numbers, then you can take three arguments, or you can take any number of argument, like whatever you want to do. So I have written def sum and in parenthesis a comma b. and a comma b, a and b are two different arguments. This is telling the user that we have to enter two numbers inside the parenthesis when we are going to call the function. So inside the function definition, I have just simply written add is equals to a plus b and then print add, because I have already asked the user for the number in the argument. So now I don't have to write a is equals to int input and b is equals to int input, because I have already asked for the numbers in the argument. So now you just simply have to take a variable for adding these numbers and then you have to make it print. So I have written these lines, and in the fifth line, I have called the function. So you can see the way I'm calling the function. I have written the function name to call it, and as I have taken two arguments in my function definition, so I have to give two arguments inside the function calling. If I will not give two arguments, or that is two numbers, then it will give you an error. So I have written sum and in parenthesis 2 comma 3. So I have given two numbers, and the value of a is now 2 and the value of b is now 3. So this function will work, and the plus operator will add the numbers, and then if you will run this code, your output will be 5 simply. And now you don't have to enter numbers separately. So this is how you can make your program make more effective. So this code was more simpler and more effective than the previous one. Now there is also a third method to write the functions and to get the same output which we were getting in the previous two methods. So in this method, the first and second line is the same like in my previous method. And now in the third line, I have used the return function on the place of print function. So this return function will simply give me the value of whatever thing you have done inside the program. So it will return my value to whatever the function I have called. It will not give you the value in your output like I am showing you. I have written def sum a comma b in the parenthesis and then add is equals to a plus b. You can write return add, or you can simply write return a plus b, anything. It will give you the same thing. So now this will give me the sum of both the numbers which I have given as the argument. Now in the above three lines I have defined the function, and in the fifth line I have called it. So I have written sum and in parenthesis 2 comma 3. So here 2 and 3 are my arguments, and these are the two numbers which I want to add. So now I will run this program, and here you can see that there is nothing in our output. So it is a very huge question that why the return function returned us the value by doing the sum of both the numbers. So why we didn't get anything in our output? So it was our mistake that we have didn't taken any variable to store that value which is returned by the return function. So you know that anytime if we want to store anything, then we just take a variable and then we assign the value whatever we want to store. Thus similarly here we also have to take a variable if you are using the return function. Print function directly prints the output or whatever you are asking for in the output, but this is different from print function. It will only return you the output, but it do not print it. So this returned us the value, but now we have to store it in a new variable. So here I have written this code once again, and now this code will give you a proper output. So here I have taken a new variable that is output to store the value which we are getting from the return function. So now the return function return us the value or return us the output to the place where we have called the function. Like if we have called the function by writing sum and in parenthesis 2 comma 3. So return function give the value or give the output to the function called position. But in the previous way, like the way we have written the code, we didn't have any variable to store that. But now we have called the function and assigned it inside the variable that is output. So now the return function will give the value to this function calling, and then it will store the value in the output variable. So now our output is stored in the output variable, and we have to print the output variable to see the value in our output. So now in the sixth line, I have written print output. Now if you will run the code, you will get 5. That is the sum of 2 and 3. So this is how you have to write the code if you are using the return function. So you have to just make the difference in your mind that if you will write directly print function inside the function which you have defined, then you don't have to take any new variable when you're calling the function. But if you have used the return function while defining the function, then you have to take a new variable to store the output. So this is how you have to write the code in different way while designing or defining any function. You can make it more simple by writing like this. Like the upper 3 lines are same, and in the fifth line I have written print and in parenthesis sum and then again parenthesis 2 comma 3. So here I have written only one line instead of that 2 line which we have written in the previous code. So here I have directly printed the value which is coming at the function calling position. So return will give us the value to the position where we have called the function, and then we have written the print function. That's why it will print our value and it will give us the output which we want. So you can also write this, you will get the same output. Now the next function which I have defined will be helpful for students to know about their grade when they will enter their marks. So let's do this question. So here is our whole code for this question, and I think those people who have seen my video on the topic of conditional statement can understand this very easily because I have discussed this code as a separate question in that video. So if you want, you can go and check. I am also discussing it here, but in a short way. So in the first line, I have written def grade. So this is the function definition. Def is the keyword which is used to define the function, and grade is the function name which I have taken for this whole function. And parenthesis is used to make the function work. So def grade parenthesis is the whole function definition. And now from the second to the 10th line, this is my whole program which will tell us the grade by taking the marks from student. So now in the second line, I have written marks is equals to int input enter number. So I have taken marks as the variable which will store the marks which will be entered by student or teacher. Now in the third line, I have written the condition statement. That is, if marks greater than equal to 90. So if the marks will be greater than or equal to 90, then the condition of if statement will be correct. And then the print function which we have written inside the if statement will work and give us the output grade A. Similarly, in the fifth line, I have written elif marks greater than equal to 80 and marks less than 90 colon. So this means that if our mark will be between 80 to 90, then this condition will be correct, and then our output will be grade B. And similarly, the seventh and ninth condition will work, and it will give us the grades A, B, and C, A, B, C, and D according to our marks. This is our whole function definition, and now we have to call the function. So I have written grade as the function calling in the 13th line to call my function, and then I am running this code. So here we have to enter the marks, and now I am entering 78 here, and then if you will run your program, then the output should be grade C. So let's see that our output is correct or not. So here I have run my program and this is our output. So this is how you can make a function and you can call it and you can check your grade. You can do this question by a more simpler method, but I have not written that code. So you have to write that code by yourself and you have to check. And that code is, you have to write the marks variable inside the grade parenthesis, and then the marks will be taken as the argument for your function. And then when you will call your function, then you have to give the marks inside the parenthesis when you will call your function. So this will be more simpler because you do not have to write your marks separately. So you have to do that question by yourself, and you have to check that it is giving us the correct output or not. Now this is the last question of my video, and in this question we have to make a function to check the voting ability or eligibility of any person. In the first line, I have defined my function by using the def keyword, and the function name which I have used for this function is voting underscore eligibility. And I have given age as the argument inside the parenthesis of my function. So I prefer giving the variables inside the parenthesis to be taken as the argument. It makes your code look more effective and it makes your code shorter. So in the second line, I have written if age greater than equal to 18. So you know that in our country, the age for voting is 18 or above 18. So I have written the condition age greater than equal to 18. This means that the age which will be entered by the user will be greater than or equal to 18. Then this condition will be correct. That is, the condition of the if statement will be correct. And then the print function which we have written inside the if statement will perform its function, and then it will give us the output that you are eligible for voting. And if age will be less than 18, like 10, 5, anything, then then the condition of if statement will become wrong, that is false, and then the Python interpreter, or that is we have to move to the else condition, and then the print function which is written inside the else condition have to work, and it will give us the output you are not eligible for voting. So this is our function definition. And now in the seventh line, I have called the function by writing the function name, and I have given age 24 as the argument inside the parenthesis. So now if you will run this program, so as you know 24 is greater than 18, so this will give us the output you are eligible for voting. So here I have run my program and you can see our output. Again I'm running my code, and this time I have taken 10 as my age inside the parenthesis of the function calling. Now I will run my code, and here you can see the output. That is, you are not eligible for voting. Now I am writing the code of the same question a little differently by two ways for those students who get confused because of the conditional statements, because of the use of if, elif, and else keywords. So let's see. So here is the another way you can write this code. Here everything is same, only the fourth line is different. So here instead of else I have used if keyword again to give the another condition. And you know that if we are using the else keyword, we don't have to give any condition with the else keyword. But if you are using elif and if any number of time, then you have to give conditions each time. Thus, in the second line, I have written if age greater than equal to 18. So we have given condition for the ages which are greater than 18 or equal to 18. Now we have to give the another condition for the ages which are less than 18. Thus, in the fourth line, I have written if age is less than 18. This means that first the condition of second line will get checked, and then if it will be true, then the print function inside the first if statement will perform its function, and then it will give us our output. But if the condition of the first if statement will become false, then the condition of the second if statement will be checked, and if it will be true, then it will give us the output which is mentioned inside the if condition or the if statement. So this is how you can also use if conditions, if keyword multiple times. And you can also write this code by using elif keyword. First I am going to run this code, and again I have called the function by writing its name, and I have given age 10 inside the parenthesis as the argument. Now I have run my code, and here you can see the output that you are not eligible for voting. Now this is the another way. So here I have used elif. So we have seen the else method, and then we have seen using two if statements, and now I am going to do this question by using an if statement, and another will be our elif statement. So the first three lines are same, and in the fourth line I have written elif age less than 18 colon. So this is totally same, only the difference is the if and elif keyword. You just have to remember that if you are using else keyword, then you don't have to give any condition, but if you are using if or elif keyword, then you have to give the condition. In the else keyword, it is uh, mutually understandable and you don't have to write the condition, but here you have to. So this is all you have to know, and now I think you have to practice a lot of more questions to become more uh, good and perfect in this topic. And this is very similar to our previous programs, only we have to do is the function definition and the function calling. So it is not a very new thing, so I think you all can understand it very easily. Again, I have called the function by writing its name, and the age is same, that is 10. And I will run this program and our output is same. So you can write a same code by using multiple methods. So now you do programs, you make functions by your own self, and you have to check that how can you write a single function multiple times by multiple methods. Now, if you want more examples, more questions about making functions, you can tell me in the comment section. If you have any query, you can tell me in the comment section. And thank you for watching. Follow for more.